I'm Kevin Craven.
I'm Brandon Alexander, and this is Vibeable,
where we invite you to tune in and catch a vibe.
All right. Yo. Hey there,
what,
Mr. Craven.
What's up?
Oh, I'm hanging out. It's a wonderful Saturday.
It is a wonderful
Saturday. I went to the farmer's market earlier this morning. Got some cool local cheeses, some curry and potatoes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Look
so
at
while we
you.
were waiting to get set up and record, I fixed myself. I got like a truffle cheddar, and I got a sheep and goat cheese as well.
Fancy.
Yeah. So I'm like munching on some of that curry, which has a nice little kick.
Nice.
So
yum.
I'm having a nice little afternoon over here.
I love cheeses. Cheeses are...
Wait, I was talking about just regular cheese, but you're just separately stating that you like Cheez-Its?
No, I said cheeses. Cheeses.
Oh.
I actually don't like Cheez-Its. I am not a fan of Cheez-Its.
Like, what an odd thing to just come out and say. Okay, yes, got it.
I am not. I know you don't hear people say cheeses all the time.
No, Cheez-It. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard someone just bring that up, on their own.
No, I said cheeses. It did sound like Cheez-Its. People usually just say I like cheese, but I was feeling different.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite cheeses that you like?
I really don't have any restrictions when it comes to cheese. I will eat any cheese. I'll eat a brie. I'll eat a sharp cheddar. I will say that I am not a big fan of blue cheese. Like, get it away.
Okay.
Get it away from me.
I remember that.
Get that out of here. Get it out of here. Even with my wings, give me ranch, please. Like, we're not gonna do the blue cheese dip. Like,
oh boy.
Yeah. No.
Feel strongly against blue. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
No shade, blue. Like, it's just...
It's not for you.
You're not for me, blue. Sorry. But mostly when it comes to cheese, I'm open, and I'll get up in there. I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there's a cheese that I explicitly don't like. Yeah. That's always just a fun topic to explore.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I miss about the Chelsea market, there is, I think it's called the station or the something station, filling station. The filling station. It was across from the lobster place.
Oh.
Called the lobster place, and you can get it's the filling station because you can get like infused oils and vinegars, so like chocolate vinegars and raspberry vinegars and blood orange oil and all this kind of stuff, olive oil, and they also had local beer that they offered, and then they also had this cheese section of that space. And there's this cheese there called Cremant cheese. Dear Lord, it was think of a brie wheel and then think of something maybe a third or 2/3 smaller than that. And it's somehow softer than that and creamier when you cut into it. And it's a cow goat blend. Cremant cheese.
Yum.
It's probably my absolute favorite cheese.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's something to keep an eye out for sure. Yeah. I could get into it. And the thing with cheese is that you could take any cheese and make a grilled cheese sandwich, and I mean it doesn't really matter what kind of cheese. It can be a grilled cheese sandwich, which is always good. I wanted you to check out the season 4 preview of Atlanta.
Yeah, so I had seen I saw the trailer for that, or it was a teaser when I actually saw Nope. I was trying to remember like where the heck I had seen it, and it was part of the previews before Nope started. And the teaser was like super trippy, and they were doing some like cool visual effects stuff of the main cast kind of walking out of a building or something like that. But I did check out the official trailer for season 4, which I was sad to see that it's the final season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did check it out, and I'm curious to see what were some of the standout moments that came to you when you watched it?
Well, there wasn't much, obviously, because I do feel like the trailer didn't give a lot away. From what I saw, it's not looking like it's gonna, you know how like season 3 had like their own standalone episodes. Looking at the season 4 trailer, I'm getting that we're not gonna get that for season 4, but you know, who knows? Donald Glover, you know, he's always tricking us and fooling us, so you never know.
He is. There were two things that stood out that I caught. One, there was like a half second of Cat Williams, who I think was in previous season. Yeah, so I did catch that. And then Isaiah Whitlock Jr., who I know from The Wire, but it was nice to see him in that trailer.
Yes.
So there's this moment where I think it was Lakeith who was in like a black set in a puddle of water, which reminded me of Get Out. When they get hypnotized and they kind of fall into the black void, but then also reminded me of Stranger Things. So I don't know if that was a callback to either of those things, but I saw that clip that I thought was interesting, and then something that maybe could be described as whiteface. It was like some sort of a dance or something like that happening, and people just had their faces painted white, wearing white.
Wow.
Those are just the two things that I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting. Like, he never disappoints there. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be unpredictable. Like, we don't know what to expect from that trailer. Like, there was no specific storyline that you could pick up from that trailer. It's just a lot of moving images is what I got.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the visual language that the show has kind of developed over their time on the air, and like the scene of Zazie kind of walking through the woods, and there's just the camera moves and all this kind of stuff. It's so pleasing to watch. So I'm excited for the whole package. I mean, you know it's going to be funny, you know it's going to hit hard. So yeah. Do you know when that drops?
It drops in September next month.
Yo, okay, cool.
Yes.
Cool.
So it's
awesome.
Crazy that we don't have to wait so long from season 3 that just ended, you know, because I know they started filming early on season 3, and then there was like a pause, and you know that's why it took so long for it to come out. And you know, while we were watching season 3, they were probably at the point of editing season 4.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like they may have shot them kind of simultaneously, maybe is what was going on.
That's also possible. Yeah. Yeah. So for fun, really quickly, I wanted to read you.
Oh, yes, please. Okay.
Sorry. Oh man, I'm such a nerd. I wanted to read you this message from Match.com that I got.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's from a guy who liked me, and he messaged me one day expressing his interest, and I said thank you for the compliment, and then I guess maybe he forgot he messaged me, so he messaged me the next day or like a few days later, as if he never messaged me before. So
isn't there like a message history or no?
There is a whole message history, but I digress.
Just scroll up, dude. Okay, all right. Well,
we never know. We never know what people are dealing with.
No.
So okay, no. This message is from this guy. You know, I'm gonna say his name. It's not his last name. It's a common name, so we'll never know who he is. Okay, so here it is. He says, the first message was, "Hi Kevin, my name is Sean. I'm 47. I saw your profile, had to stop and tell you that your eyes are beautiful and your smile melts my heart away." Very nice, right? I said, "That's very sweet, Sean. Thank you so much." He then proceeds to say, "Because it's a fact. Can I be honest with you?" No question mark, by the way. "I would like to get to know you. Such a hot guy like you." Wait, I was sorry. Now it's the fact that I don't know how to read. It says, "I would like to get to know such a hot guy like you."
Flattery's got you flustered.
So I didn't say anything because, I'm not really interested, so I don't want to lead him on. So a few days later, after our first exchange, it's a brand new exchange, a brand new introduction from Sean. And he says, Hi, my name is Sean. I'm 47. I must say your eyes are beautiful. And they tell me you have and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bigs. They tell me you have a big, caring, lovely, beautiful, caring, again, caring is twice, heart, which you get from your mom, which is spelled like the Wicked Witch, which you get from your mom, and your smile, he says it twice, and your smile, and your gorgeous looks you get from your dad. And I'm like...
Jesus.
I'm like, okay, girl. Bless Sean. That it's.
I would say that this is an example of your initial gut, your take one was the one you should have stuck with.
Yeah, because the first message was just like kind of straight to the point. Now, like when you get to saying big 5 times and then you start saying caring twice in the same sentence, and then
and then the likeness of your mom and dad, who he's not met, presumably.
Yeah, and I get my gorgeous looks from my dad, my caring heart I get from my mom. Like, how, Sean? That's a little conventional of you, for you to say that I get my heart from my mom and my looks from my dad. We don't know that, but Sean, it was sweet. It was sweet.
Well, how old was he? 47?
47.
Yeah, that checks out. That's like
he's of that age.
From where he's coming from, that's kind of like the what was said as far as trying to be polite or trying to be flirtatious. That seems about right.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, we can continue to throw shade. I'm fine to do that.
No. I'm not. No.
Okay.
No, that's not where I'm wanting to go. It was a sweet message.
Cool. It was very sweet.
Yeah,
yes.
I thought it was very kind and also very funny. Like saying big 5 times, like that's, I don't know. I wonder.
Yeah, do you think, I think that was like a double entendre moment where you'd think he'd be vulgar at the end, but he says heart instead of, right? Like, is that, yeah. That's cute. That's funny.
Oh, Sean, thank you for the sweet message.
Aw. So I wanted to ask you, you had said that you did some filming yesterday. How did that go? Where were you at? What were you up to?
So I went to the King of Fish in Brooklyn. It's in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. It is owned by this very kind Venezuelan gentleman named Roger, who is actually from Venezuela. He grew up in Venezuela. He is a rock musician. He's a drummer like yourself. And he moved to the States to tour and, to tour and to go and play with different bands. And he's also a lawyer. And now he's a restaurant owner. So he pretty much does everything. And he opened this restaurant right before the pandemic, and then he was, like a lot of restaurant owners, was forced to kind of figure it all out, and he did, and he's still going, but he wants to grow more, and he should. And I told him, like looking at your Instagram page, he has a lot of live music acts come to perform, and like he posts that a lot. The posters of these musicians coming to play, but he doesn't usually incorporate like the food, and the food is incredible. He has like everything is like seafood, and it's all fresh. Like he doesn't freeze any of it. He takes pride in that. He takes pride in tasting everything to make sure the chefs are still on top of it. The drinks are amazing. Everything is house made, from the hot sauces they use to the pineapple juice that they use for the cocktails. It's all house made. He takes pride in that. It's such a special place. They have this beautiful back.
And what's the Oh yeah, I was gonna say, what's the actual restaurant venue like, since he's able to have live music there?
So it's like you walk in and it's like a bar like setting, but there are also tables for patrons to sit and eat their food. So there's the bar restaurant aspect, and then you go out to the back to see this gorgeous patio. It's giving under the sea vibes, you know, really cool, really sticking to the theme of King of Fish, and it's so beautiful. So that's usually where the musical acts play, and it's such a nice area, and it's just a gem that a lot of people don't know about. And the name of the restaurant is, when you say it in Espanol, is named after the place a restaurant that he went to often as a kid, which was on the water, and he just kind of wanted to carry that legacy. And like the food is
shout
incredible.
Out to King of Fish. That sounds incredible.
Fish. I tried this baby shark empanada there. It is the best empanada I've had in my life. There's also this other dish, I forget what it's called, but it's a lightly fried pepper, and it's stuffed with tuna, and it's served on house-made tortilla. One of the best fucking things I've ever eaten. Absolutely delicious. And I asked him how common this dish is. He said it's not common at all. I'm like, Roger, we need to get this food on Instagram. Like, people, when I go to your Instagram, I don't really see these beautiful dishes, and I need to, as well as anyone else who is interested. So I was there.
Oh, that's interesting. Night. So then there's this aspect. Okay, so you're going to create content, but now you're actually getting to. It hadn't occurred to me. Now you're getting to actually form this relationship with the actual restaurant owners as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That's lovely.
It is, and
wow.
I genuinely believe in what he's doing, and I believe in his product. His food is amazing. He has great ideas, and people need to know about it. I really want him to thrive.
Yeah. Well, me too. Robert, you got our vote. You got our support.
Roger, yes, you do.
Roger, my goodness.
It's okay. It's close.
It was real close.
It was so close. What's the letter difference? Robert, you got 2 syllables.
What's the
2 syllables here. It starts with R-O, right? Robert, Roger. Okay? Like, they both kind of end with an R. You know what I mean? So it's okay.
They do. It was the consonants that got me.
Yeah, those
every time. Every time.
Oh, God.
Pesky consonants. Jeez Louise. Ugh. So people might also want to know, Kev, or at least I do anyway. So we have our first connection as friends, as acquaintances in the beginning was music. Mm-hmm. Music brought us together. We were very much a musical type of... Cut.
We don't gotta cut. You know, just go with the flow.
So how we first met was certainly it was a musical venture, mm-hmm. let's say. And I'm curious to know, in a young Kevin's life, what were some of the first albums? Like, if you could pinpoint it, what was the first album that you ever purchased? Let's start there.
Okay, so I didn't exactly purchase albums growing up. It was a little later for me. But to answer your question as best I can, I'm gonna say when I was like a kid, I didn't make this purchase, but it was purchased for me for some reason. And thank you to whomever got it for me. But it was Jay-Z's first Blueprint album. And I was always a weird kid. Like, my mother would always call me weird. And I guess weird means listening to like rock music. And I don't know. I was more drawn to rock music. So someone getting me Blueprint, again, thank you. But it collected dust. No shade to Jay. Like, it's an amazing album. It's a classic. Okay.
Wow.
But it collected dust because it wasn't my interest. But then, so my mother would buy a lot of CDs, and some of the CDs that she bought that I found myself drawn to, the first that I can remember is the Fugees. Lauryn Hill, Wyclef Jean, and it was the album with Killing Me Softly and Foo La La La. And I just, because I loved Lauryn Hill from Sister Act 2 with Whoopi Goldberg. And so once I like saw that she was also a musician and not just an actress, I was like, oh my gosh, she has music. And I just kind of like fell in love with the Fugees album.
And what came first for Lauryn Hill? Was it her acting career, or was she in the Fugees before that?
I want to say that, well, she was always a singer. Like, I remember her seeing her on Apollo at a very young age, and she got booed, actually. And, so she was definitely a musician first, and then I feel like she probably auditioned for Sister Act 2 and got that role because she's so amazing.
Yeah, that's such a cool thing to have influenced you at such a young age. I haven't listened to that album in a while, but I mean that rendition of "Killing Me Softly," that's so infectious, and it's one of the rare instances where the cover kind of supersedes the original as far as people's preference.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a hell of a cover. It's kind of like when Aretha would cover your song. They would say, you never want Aretha to cover your song because it's not going to be your song anymore. This is arguably similar.
Yeah, I didn't get into R&B and hip hop until like high school-ish. So Virgin Records was still around, and there was like a big store in this shop called Sunset Place, this mall in South Miami, and it was always like a treat. Or before that, I guess it was Specs, but I don't remember being interested in music when Specs was around before Virgin. But anyway, I remember getting Offspring's Americana, which had, I don't know if you remember the song Pretty Fly for a White Guy.
Yes, and all the girls say pretty fly for a white guy.
Yeah. So that was like the first album that for the first CD that I bought. And I can remember what I miss about CDs, I guess, is the booklets that are in there and the artwork on the booklets. I mean, I remember like Matthew's, one of his first, my brother's earliest CDs was like Aqua, that had the album that had Barbie Girl.
Oh yeah, okay.
And just the stories that the CD covers can tell when you unfold the booklets and all that kind of stuff. I do miss that.
Me too.
And I remember, because I've always music was certainly always in the cards for me. And so I think I am, by this point, at least in band in middle school. So I'm learning and I'm reading and I'm playing. But I remember being so excited about this album and like listening to the lyrics, and I had to listen to it all weekend. I would just spend my weekend in my room on my new, iMac computer, listening to Americana. And for those of you familiar with the album, or at least familiar with Offspring, they're kind of punk and rowdy. And I was so excited that Mom, do you want to just listen to this album? This is like really good album. And she was like so sweet, and she sat in my room and she listened to this whole thing, and it's like so ridiculous. I mean, the song, the lyrics to Pretty Fly for a White Guy are absurd. There's a song in there where Brandon OD'd and died. What the hell is going? So there's like I OD and die in one of the songs. They're just so outrageous. But I listened to that for hours and hours and hours. Yeah. So I couldn't even say that it I can't pinpoint a way that it influenced me musically, because my drumming style is certainly not that. Yeah. But it was a cool first introduction to like being obsessed with an album. Yeah. And I guess that's developing. So it's like, how do you listen to an album when you get a new one? Do you have like a way that you go about it? Do you need to listen to it all the way through? Are albums not really important? And are you more of a singles person?
So for me, I love a body of work. If you're going to release an album, like, what's the Hot Ones guy name? I always forget his name. What is his name?
Sean. I know it's Sean.
Okay, we'll just go by Sean. So
last name.
Sean,
I'm so sorry, Sean. We love
you, Sean. Sean asked Lizzo. Well, he didn't ask her. He was like introducing her, and he mentioned her new album and how it was no skips. And I'm like, that's how an album should be. It should be no skips. And listen, I've been listening to her new album like a lot, and I agree. It's a no skip album. And so if you're gonna release a body of work, I feel like all the effort should never just go into the single. Like, do a body of work where you're proud of all of it. And you can sit down as the artist and just listen all the way through, and you're not tempted to skip, so no, I'm not just like a singles guy. Even Prince, before he passed, said, oh, fucking horn. Oh my God! Stop it! You hear that?
Be quiet out there! Don't they know that we're recording a podcast?
Rude.
Damn.
Prince said albums still matter, or something along those lines, because they do. Make a full album and make a full body of work that people are gonna love. Like, not like make an album that where every song can be a single. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you put that much effort into all the songs, it's going to be a great album.
Yeah, and I was exposed to Prince through the Musicology album, and I don't know, and I haven't explored his catalog in depth, but that's the one I'm most familiar with, and the transitions for him from song to song are super important, and this song ends as the next song begins, kind of thing. So yeah, it was clear that it was important to him to have like a continuity and like a story, a flow in his albums.
Yeah, absolutely. You need that. And one of my favorite albums of all time is by Janelle Monae, the Arcandroid, because she does the same thing especially early on. Like, the songs are just transitioning and spilling over into the next, and sometimes you don't even know that it's the next song. It's just like,
you bring up such a great point, because we know that there is a Prince connection with Janelle, and that was a mentor of hers, and she certainly adopted that from him for sure. Oh, she does that so well.
Yeah,
Arcandroid is. It's like another as young as she was, it truly is a masterclass of how to do that.
So beautiful. So what about you? Like, when it comes to albums, are you still excited about albums? Are you mostly just into singles? Like, how do you feel about it?
I'm certainly not a singles guy. I feel like anyone who is, you can have your reasons for being one or the other, but I feel like you're cheating yourself from a couple things. One is, like, there's other gems on that album that aren't going to be singles, and if you're just chasing the singles, you're kind of missing out on this other brilliant content.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the story that the artist is wanting to tell is important to me, and so obviously the album is the way that artists can do that. And then it was pretty recently that I was hanging out with someone who is just obsessed with vinyls. They have just an insane vinyl collection. And I had listened to, there were some records that he had that I was familiar with, Janelle being one of them. And it occurred to me that, so when you listen to when you listen to an album, as most people do, let's say on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, it's going to play all the way through, right? And so yeah, you can get like a gist of what the story is and whatnot. But there's also this added element to track order that we don't consider for those of us that don't listen to vinyl, right? So that when you're listening to it on a vinyl record, there's a side A, and then you have to flip it to side B. Yeah. And so there's consideration as to what the last track on side A is and what the first track on side B is. And that's something that I hadn't really realized. And it's this whole other layer that I didn't realize was being put into the order of an album. Yeah. Oh, it's so... And so like that is a trip. And I want to eat that up as much as possible. So I am down to listen to, from beginning to end, any new album by an artist that I'm interested in.
Yeah, it should be exciting when your favorite artists are releasing bodies of work. It's, as you said, they're putting all this effort into even the order, the track list of this album, and you want to kind of pick apart how and why they chose this order, and I mean, it will be even better if it just flows and you're like, I see why you chose this order. It just makes so much sense. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling listening to your favorite artists, and just the order is just so perfect, and you're just vibing with the whole album, and it's no skips, like,
right. And you mentioned being excited to listen to a new album of your favorite artist. So okay, so I know that you're a big fan of Lupe Fiasco. Mm-hmm. Can you tell his progress as an artist? Is there a discernible difference or something that you're able to pinpoint a difference between like his earlier work versus his later work, how he's evolved? Is it, be it in production or sound or type of music that he's releasing or mood or anything like that?
Well, I would say, as far as Lupe, I do feel like he challenges himself, and when mostly in the sense, based on my perspective, of playing around in different genres. Like he always plays around and he dabbles in the rock. And when I say that, it's it's the music itself, where it's like just like a rock instrumental, and he's always done that. And he'll go back to the jazz, and he plays around with jazz a lot, which jazz in so many ways has inspired hip hop. But
yes.
Yeah. And like the topics he talks about, sometimes like over the years, I would say early on, he gets into some heavy topics. He gets into some heavy social commentary. And later on, he would loosen up a bit. And I'm not saying that the social commentary, he was like uptight or anything, but later on, I would hear that he just like, he was a little more lighthearted, a little more fun. But even like the more fun tracks, there's still like that message there. So, and of course, lyrically, I've heard him just, he's always evolving lyrically. To me, Lupe Fiasco is incredibly underrated lyrically. He is one of the greatest lyricists of our time, and he's just not talked about enough. But yeah, who cares? He's still doing his thing. He's still successful. He still has a dedicated fan base.
And there's two things that I enjoy about listening to a band's catalog over time. One is demonstrated by Childish Gambino, and it's what you said, like that Lupe dabbles in a couple of genres. But I feel like of the artists that I'm familiar with, that Childish Gambino displays that the best, in that it's R&B, and then it's straight up hip hop, and then it's rock, and then it's funk. So yeah, I feel like Gambino. I mean, and he also has Ludwig Göransson as his producer. Like they're just such a great duo. And then I can't think of a band off the top of my head, but I do enjoy. It'll happen in rock where the earlier Incubus. Yeah, that's a perfect example. The Fungus Among Us and and Science. There you go. Their first two albums are heavy. Like you would not think that this is the band that sang what was there? Meet me in outer space. Like this kind of that love song that was. It was popular when I was in high school. It's like this chill, beachy kind of vibe. Their first two albums are heavy as fuck. Like it's closer to metal than anything else. Wow. But there's sometimes a trend where bands will start off like super heavy, and then as they age, they chill out. And it's really like the last album that they released, it's like so spacey and has these kind of psychedelic transitions and all this kind of stuff. And I guess that has to do with when you're in your teens and 20s. I guess Chili Peppers also has that, where you just kind of have that young angst. Yeah. And you're mad at authority and all this kind of stuff. And then, but also I could see a similar pattern in my tendencies as a drummer.
Yeah.
Wanting to be kind of loud and aggressive, and then as I age, learning the benefits of being light and simple.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all a part of evolving. You have things that you want to get out, right? And once you get it out, it's like, okay, I'm good. I'm chill now.
Yeah. Yeah, like death metal bands have that. I wouldn't say an issue, but it's common that they just kind of run their course because eventually they'll get to an age where they're like, yeah, the demonic screaming just doesn't resonate with me anymore. Like, I'm pretty successful. I've got 3 kids. Why am I like buying into this kind of thing?
Yeah, and that's okay that early on they were into the demonic screaming, and you evolved and you grew, and now you're not so much into that anymore. So you have something new to offer, a new perspective.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic here of music and artists and albums we like, if you had to pick, if there was an album that would exist in your top 3, and I know it's almost impossible to kind of lock that in, but if there's an album that more often than other albums tends to end up in your top 3, is there any that comes to mind?
Well, as I said, Arcandroid by Janelle Monae is in that top 3. I mean, I heard.
Oh well, yeah. How did you first come about that album?
So, I mean, I was waiting for it. Like, she released the Cold War single, and she also released Tightrope, and then
those 2 videos. Yikes.
Yeah, right.
Ooh,
yeah,
those videos. Wow.
I was waiting for it. I knew it was coming out because I had seen her live before she released any of those singles, and she was still promoting Metropolis, and I seen her live.
Did you see her at Brooklyn? In Brooklyn?
I saw the first time I saw her was in New York somewhere. It wasn't in Brooklyn. I forget where it was, but it was with my uncle and my godbrother, and she was painting on stage, and she threw the canvas out into the stage, and I caught it. And and I had paint all over me, but I loved it. And it's still in my mother's basement unless she threw it out, which I hope she did.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was waiting for Arcandroid, and I found out about Janelle Monae through my sisters, who are way cooler than me, and they were like telling me that they listened to this girl, and she's crazy, and she's just all over the place, and I was like, oh my god, I love her. So when I saw her live, I was like, oh, this is amazing. So I was waiting for Arcandroid. I didn't know what to expect, and honestly, because my music taste was not as developed in 2010, which is when Arcandroid was released, I was not as appreciative of it right away. So,
because it is a lot. It is a lot to take in.
It is, but once you understand, once you understand music, you understand the masterpiece that is Arcandroid. So
right, like let's be clear, it was our lack of knowledge and ignorance as to why. It was hard to digest at first.
Yes, don't try to blame the artist for your ignorance. Okay,
that's right.
Need to catch up. Okay,
we didn't know better. Yeah, that's right. Yes,
and of course I didn't speak badly about it at all. Like, I still, even though I didn't appreciate it as much, I still appreciate it right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, all that to say, Arcandroid is definitely in my top.
So I feel like I have to speak on how I came upon Arcandroid, and it's thanks to you. You introduced me to that for the first time when we were getting ready to expand our minds here and go on a little trip.
Yeah.
In my apartment in Jersey.
Yes.
And what a mind-melting other than the psilocybin coursing through our. So it was my first time on Arcandroid, but it was your first time on the Fungi. Well, so it was an afternoon of firsts here.
Let's paint the full picture here for the listeners. It was a
okay. All right, go. Let's set the stage here.
It was a shrooms trip. I just want them to know
it was a shrooms trip. Yes. And it was Kevin's first experience. I'm pretty well versed in these types of trips, and I was so happy to be able to do that with you because one, it was a safe space, and two, that you brought ArchAndroid into my life. I mean, I was a fan of Janelle, but I had just not. And I don't know if the album that she released, I forget the name, when Prince was still around. It's The Way You Make Me Feel.
Oh, so that's from her most recent, which is Dirty Computer. And
Dirty Computer.
Yeah, so that song Make Me Feel is inspired by Prince for sure. He had already passed.
That guitar. I think that's Prince on that guitar line, right?
I think it might be a sample.
Yeah. If I recall, I read an article that was like one of the last gifts that he had given her, and she used it for,
I just
for
got
that track.
chills. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I was like just getting into that album, and it's around this time that we had this day, and that I heard ArchAndroid for the first time. And just, I mean, as you experience, like, it's kind of just stream of consciousness while awake, and memories and thoughts and profound epiphanies that were coming to you, and familial stuff and relationship stuff. Like, that was, and to hear an album like that in a state of mind like that,
I mean,
I feel like if you haven't listened to ArchAndroid and shrooms or psilocybins, psychedelics are like up your alley, that's a good way to first get exposed.
Has a song.
They go hand in hand.
Yeah, she even has a song on there called "Mushrooms and Roses." So, I mean, if you listen to the song, it was kind of made.
She's telling you to do mushrooms, folks. She wants you to
and when you listen to that song, you're gonna see what we mean. Like, yeah.
I mean, and then okay. So aside from all that, how young she was, and how ballsy an album like that is, and that she just had the creative freedom. You were telling me that effectively the label just allowed her to go into the studio and write the album, right?
Yeah, she had all creative freedom. She had her team. She worked with Chuck Lightning, her one of her guys, and Nate Wonder, and she still works with them. And they were so heavily involved with the creative process, and she had the ideas, and they offered ideas, and this masterpiece was born. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I just felt like there was a connection there that I wanted to share and talk about.
Yes.
If I had to, here's an album that certainly floats around in my top 3. It's one that you and I listened to together. We were driving from Weeki Wachee to Georgia.
Yeah.
And it's the Jack White album. It's the Rock on Tours album, Consolers of the Lonely. Yes. So I know that it's a super group of sorts. I'm not really too familiar by name of the other members, but it is Jack White, and then Patrick Keeler is the drummer in that group. And first of all, I love when it's good, right? And I love that when that album came on, just like watching you vibe and feel it, and you were just like every song was just had us dancing and feeling good and like wanting to move. And what I love about this album in particular is it seemed, I always like to kind of guess at we've talked about it. I'm always interested in artists' process and how they create. And listening to this album, it doesn't seem like it's the process of, okay, lay down the bass. Okay, now we're going to lay down the drums. Now we'll lay down vocals. Yeah. It sounds like it was recorded live.
Yeah.
Not to say that there wasn't stuff done in post vocally. Maybe they do double track. I think actually Jack White says in the opening track, we're going to double track that. I think he actually says those words. Okay. But it seems like they all were in a room, and they played the parts together. And so if that is the case, it's that much more impressive because these performances are perfection. Like this drummer, dear Lord, he's just so on it, and he's vicious. Yeah. He's vicious, and he goes for it. Like there's when you record drums, it can be kind of stressful, especially if that's not what you do. If you're not a studio musician yourself,
yeah.
And so like some of the like a helpful rule that you can live by is like have your fills written out,
Yes.
have your fills decided on. For anyone who doesn't know what that term is, that's just referring to when you're playing a drum beat and you go bigga digga psh, that is a fill, right? And you don't want to, effectively you don't want to be laying down a track and then have to do it again because you flubbed the fill because you're just making it up on the spot. But this dude, it reminded me of when I saw Hamilton. So that drummer live plays pretty much verbatim what is on the recording, but there's some tracks where he allows himself to be free and he kind of strays away from the original recording and kind of does his own thing. Yeah. And that's what this drummer was doing. It felt like that. There's no way that those fills were written out or predetermined. That he was just so good, and he's able to just kill it and execute it in the moment. So yeah, that and plus it's one of those. It's an album with no skips as well. You can just listen to it all the way through, and that's just some good ass rock.
Yeah,
right there.
it is, and I feel like anything Jack White does, it's gonna be well thought out. You know, his musicians, you gotta have it together. Like if he's getting you to sign on, it's because you're amazing. So we just know to expect greatness from any Jack White, any of his projects that he was involved in, any of the bands that he was involved in. It's gonna be greatness always.
Yeah, and I like what I like about his style is that he's so about leaving the imperfections in. And I think it was in the documentary, it might get a little loud in here, whatever it was him, Jimmy Page, and The Edge. And so it's just these three great guitarists, and you hear their respective backstories, but then they're also in the same room in the documentary. And there's a point where they all play together. And there's a really great moment, side note, where The Edge and Jack White look like little kids when Jimmy Page starts to like play his solo stuff. It's just so great to watch. But in this documentary, Jack White talks about his process, and he says if he can get from the mic to the keyboard in 3 steps, he's going to move the keyboard so that he has to get there in 5. And so he effectively, if he doesn't want the process to be easy, he thinks it should be a struggle, I think, in his mind. And I think anyone creative can kind of relate here, right? Like when you're down, when you're depressed, when things aren't going well is when the creative juices kind of flow in a different way, and we start to create some really intriguing content. A quick example, like the music that I was creating in Kew Gardens in Queens, which is like, in the winter, so this winter picturesque wonderland, compared to where it was in Prospect in Brooklyn. The music I wrote, the roach infested brownstone that I lived in, and the room, my room was actually shaped like a coffin for some reason. But the music, like when you're laying in bed looking up, you're looking at the shape of a coffin. Anyway, but the music I wrote in Brooklyn, far more intriguing, far more interesting. And so I think where Jack White is coming from is that he can produce a better product if it is a struggle. And you watch any live performance of Jack White when he's playing that guitar, like it's not uncommon for that white guitar, that custom thing that he has, to be covered in blood because he is digging into the strings, that hard. Literally shredding. Yeah. So yeah, the Consolers of the Lonely certainly at the top there.
Yeah. I remember vibing to that album, and that album I would say is one of the reasons I loved rock as a kid. And it wasn't even like a specific artist, it was just what rock made me feel, and it's always so unfortunate to me because, like, to be called weird, like by my mother or by anyone, by liking rock when Black people are the blueprint of rock and roll. And I just think because of history, so much of that is forgotten, but I loved rock music. I loved hearing the electric guitar. I loved people telling a story with it. And again, that album is an example of why I've just always been so drawn to rock music.
Yeah, and that was always prevalent in you during our collaborations in music. We were so blessed to work with Matt and Dan and these super talented musicians. Yeah. And every time Dan would solo, like when we were doing those sessions in Greg's basement in Astor Place, just it would literally infect you. Like it's almost like forcing. It's not like you, Kevin, were moving and dancing around. It's the sound of the guitar that was moving you whenever he would solo. Yeah. So yeah, I remember fondly getting to watch and see just how much it does affect you in a positive way.
Yeah, it's when you're good on guitar, man, when you can really shred like Dan, it's as not just as a musician but as a person, you should be moved. You should be affected.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember the name of the track, but it was one that he just you had him do a sick solo at the bridge, I think it was.
Yeah.
By the way, we're talking about Dan Rohrig. Shout out Dan Rohrig, one of literally the best guitarist I've gotten to play with.
So good.
But I don't remember that track, but oh my God, it made me smile when you sent that over. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it's called Returned, and it's just
right.
He's
just
like I
murders.
asked him to do it, and he got it back to me not only quickly but perfectly. It just like it was just so I had nothing to say. I mean, it just blended.
No notes. Yeah, right.
It just blended.
Oh wow, perfect.
So
okay,
beautifully with the message of the song, with the rest of the music. It was just so well done. He's so talented. I'm so privileged.
Yo, and it's and when it's good, it really does elevate the rest of the song. Mm-hmm. So I won't remember the name of the venue right now, but it was I guess it was probably one of the last shows that Gowanus, this band I was in, played, and we would have musicians come and sit in with us occasionally, and he was the musician this show. So he played guitar for us. And this one, it was called, I don't remember the name of the song. If I can find, I will include a link in the description for anyone who's interested in seeing what Dan can do. And it's my favorite, Kev. It is my favorite version of this song. There was just like a tight vibe of the people that were on stage. Yeah, but the way, like what he did, and because I don't know that we even had a full rehearsal. That's like not uncommon, right? Just the way people's schedules are and timing and all this kind of stuff. And so he is literally just going off of instinct. Yeah. And it's always so good. And you can, like, you listen to that version of that song and listen to any other version of that song, and that one's it, and it's distinctly different. And I would say the common denominator there is, one version has Dan and the other one doesn't.
Yeah. It's unfortunate for the version that doesn't. Yeah, Dan, he knows his shit. Like he's a guitarist. He's a musician. He's an artist. He knows what he's doing.
We had talked about that time that you'd seen Janelle and how you grabbed that historical piece of art from her. Is there a live concert experience that stands out to you that was particularly meaningful? It might have been that performance, whether you were in attendance or even possibly performing at that comes to mind.
That's a good question. I mean, I have been fortunate enough to see some talented artists. I've seen Esperanza Spalding, I've seen Bilal, I've seen Erykah Badu, I've seen Jill Scott, I've seen Mary. I've seen Lupe. Oh boy, what a special one.
So where was the first time you caught Lupe?
That was in Brooklyn. That was probably like 4 years ago at this point. But I was literally the first one outside, and it was cold, and I did not care. I got in, I got up front, and he is, There are a lot of rappers these days who got backtracks, and no shade to you, no shade. I get it. I understand. I want to say that if you're not dancing on stage, I don't feel like you as a rapper should have a backtrack. And I stand by that. I can get dragged for that, but I stand by that. If you're not on stage dancing like a Megan Thee Stallion, I do not believe you need a backing track. But listen, it is what it is. Lupe Fiasco was on that stage. There was not a backtrack to be found. He was rapping every single lyric, and I have so much love and so much respect for that. He's a performer, like Kendrick, like how you saw Kendrick perform during the halftime show this year, and you mentioned he stood out to you because he's just such a performer.
Yes,
Lupe is he's in that, he's up there. He's in that league. He's a performer. He's gonna rap. He's gonna give you energy. He's gonna skateboard. He's gonna dance. He's gonna give you an experience. Now, to answer your question, while Lupe was incredible, I'm gonna say that to date, you're right. It wasn't that performance of Janelle Monae that I saw, but it was another one that I saw where she had just released Electric Lady, and I saw her perform, and this was an experience that she gives. She had an entire stage set up to coincide with her album. It was also cohesive. She had the screen that kind of painted visuals for you. She was so special. She came onto the audience and she had so much control. She's like not even 5 feet tall, but this little woman had so much control. She was in charge of that entire concert venue. She's electric. Yeah. She is an electric lady, one of the best performers of our time. I don't care. Fight me. I will fight you. We can go back and forth to any listener. She's incredible.
Go ahead, listener. Disagree. Go ahead. See, watch what happens. Watch what happens.
And so, what about you? What is that defining concert experience?
So a quick thought on your comments on backtracks and hip hop artists. So I know that you're not the biggest fan of Jay-Z, but he famously or not, whether he's known for it or not, doesn't have backtracks. In fact, Tony Royster Jr. is his drummer, who is fucking sick. This guy was a child prodigy. There's like footage of Tony Royster on like Johnny Carson as like a 7 or 8 year old, kind of tearing it up on drums. So yeah, whatever you want to say about Jay-Z, that's a part of his live performance.
Yeah, Jay-Z is rapping live.
He agrees with.
He's giving you live vocals.
Yes. Yeah. So thinking about it, I mean, when you mentioned the screens that Janelle had, like there's some performances that come to mind as far as bands that the cohesive experience and the visual needs to match the audio, needs to match the vibe or the mood. So like 9 Inch Nails comes to mind. Their screen game was dope as fuck. I saw them at Barclays Center, and it was just, dear Lord. I mean, yeah, they're of the electronic genre, but their live shows, they're like Radiohead. They're they are recreating all those tracks on stage, and so that is someone. Yeah, it's not a sequencer.
Yes.
And then Trent Reznor goes as far as to even have like a custom mic stand where he can actually have MIDI controllers and triggers that allow him to do this or that or this effect. So he's doing that all live. It's not some sound guy pushing a button.
Yeah.
So like that comes to mind. But as far as like top live performance, outside of maybe some performances of the New York Phil, there was this show that I got to see at the Blue Note. And it was weird because I was on vacation. I was getting ready to move into the last place I was in Jersey City. And I was down in Miami. And I remember it because I think the day I got back to New York, I was going to go to the Blue Note and catch this show. And I got the tickets because Brad Meldau, who is a fantastic keyboard player, piano and pianist, was performing, and so I wanted to catch him. And it wasn't until I was I was either in line or I was the day before just checking to see what time I had to arrive and all that I saw that John Scofield was also going to be performing. And John Scofield is this great guitarist that I love. He's on this album, A Go-Go, and it was just a great surprise. I didn't even know that John Scofield would be part of the performance, and boom, I get to see Brad Mehldau and John Scofield in the same night.
Yeah.
And then when I'm waiting in line, I miss that about New York. When you're going to, first of all, they have these fantastic venues that all these fantastic acts and artists want to flock to. They want to play at. And so when you're standing in line for some of these performances, the people that you're around and get to talk to are also just so magnetic, and they've got live performances and experiences of their own that they get to share, and you get to have all these things in common, right? And so we're talking about the person behind me or something. We're talking about John Scofield, and I love Brad Mehldau, and do you like this album and that album? And then they told me who would be drumming, and the drummer is a gentleman by the name of Mark Juliana, and I had not heard of Mark Juliana. So Brad Mehldau is, along with being a pianist and an electronic artist as well. I think he was playing a Moog. Sorry, I never remember the pronunciation there, but he's also like a prominent jazz artist, and like one of my favorite jazz albums is Largo by Brad Mehldau. So this the same for Mark Juliana. He is effectively like the premier jazz drummer of modern day. I guess that can be refuted, but he's certainly top tier. Mm-hmm. And you might have heard of Mark Juliana if you're a David Bowie fan. Mm-hmm. He was the drummer on his last album, on the Black Star album. In fact, I learned later that Bowie made that album specifically to collaborate with Mark Juliana and his like musical circle.
Nice.
And so this person in line was like, "You've not heard of Mark Juliana? Oh my God, you are gonna freak out!" And this man, he laid down literally the best drums I've ever heard anyone play live or recorded, for that matter. Wow. I mean, this guy is just. I'll provide a link to my favorite solo spot that he has on YouTube for Vic Firth, and you can just see just how talented and what like his personality is. Just it's inseparable to how he plays, and I love that when Janelle Monae is certainly that way. Her personality is just a part of the fabric of the music that she puts out.
Yeah.
So this night at Blue Note was probably the. I guess it was because so much of it was a surprise.
Yeah.
You know, on my end, I just hadn't missed that John Scofield was part of the show. Mm-hmm. And then to discover Mark Juliana live at the Blue Note was also just a treat.
Yeah. It's always good to get a surprise, and then for that surprise to blow you away. And going back to your Nine Inch Nails experience, I have zero doubt at all, because just their music is, you can hear the effort, and you can hear the love in which they have for music on any of their projects. And yeah, going to their concert, I imagine they are going to give you that same effort. And Copy of that you put me onto is still one of my.
I was thinking, that's right. When we were going to the Keys, right? It's the first time that.
Yeah.
Like you were like, "Who? What is this?" Or I remember.
I still live by it to this day. It is just, it's still, and Find My Way. I love Find My Way too. Like that's another one that I just really just sits with my soul.
Yeah.
They're special, and you can sense their passion for music for sure.
Yeah. It's what's cool about Trent Reznor's process, again, talking about, artist process. And I don't know if it's for every album. And I forget the specific album that I remember hearing this about. Actually, I think in this particular album, at the very last track is like an hour-long interview. Or actually, I think it's just Trent talking into a mic. So I think it's just him kind of talking things out. And what he did was he sent out tracks to like famous musicians or colleagues of his anyway. Mm-hmm. And he said he would say to Flea, lay down a bass track here. He would say to this person, lay down a guitar track here. And then he would get it back. And then not that he would necessarily keep it in, but he would then be inspired by what they wrote, and then that would inform the backtracks or the parts that he would write himself. That would end up in the final product. So I love that process. I'd not really heard that before. Not to say that other people don't do that, but that he shared, that's what he does. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's always fun to hear different musicians' creative process, and it you hear the finished product and you just appreciate it that much more, knowing what went into it.
Yeah, and I guess before we go, I'm kind of curious because your process has kind of been, to some degree, I've been a part of it. But a lot of what we played was kind of already established by you, and so what we did together was kind of figure out what the right version of some of your songs and how to do it live, and with the band that we formed together. But is your process more in your head? Do you rely on like getting this stuff out on paper, and does it come to you that way? I know you also have other collaborators that you work with on beats and whatnot, but I guess at the core, when you're starting a fresh idea, what does that process kind of look like for you?
It varies. Like sometimes I would just have lyrics, or sometimes melodies come to me and I would like record it before it disappeared. But it varies. Sometimes, like I said, the lyrics would come to me and I would get them down and try to form a way, to form them into a melody of some sort, or to form them lyrically in a way in which is appealing, or it all varies, I guess, for the most part. Sometimes I would be inspired by the music. Sometimes I would hear music and I would be inspired to write to it, and it's different.
And these are the tracks that was Ian who you worked with?
Some of Ian, yeah, some of Ian. Mostly a guy I used to work with named Carl. Carl was a multi-instrumentalist, and he would come up with a lot of the tracks that I did. One track that Ian did that he didn't even like write for me was like this song I did called Small Town Closet, and I really just love it so much. And of course, what I love most about it is the electric guitar, because it's telling a story. And like before the lyrics came to me while writing to this song, I like cried from the electric guitar. And then when I came up with the lyrics, I cried from the lyrics because it's just such a beautiful blend. It's all just, they should all connect. The lyrics should connect with the music. It really should. Like the music, if you hear the music first, if you come up with the music first, you should be inspired by the music, and it should be cohesive for sure. But everyone's creative process is different.
Yeah, I love hearing I guess other instrumentalists and vocalists version of how they get inspired and how they kind of start when writing a track or a song, because a drummer's, at least mine, not that I also don't know many drummers well enough to kind of have had these conversations and know what per se their process is, but from my experience, my process is certainly more heavily reliant on you having an artist like you having already gone through those steps and presenting that to me, and then that will certainly generate some sort of a groove, and you can kind of start there. But I remember there was a time in the group Gowanus that I played in, we had a rehearsal spot in Brooklyn, and our practices would go 3 hours, 4 hours, and I loved that writing process because it's always so sketchy, right? The first time you hear a song and the first time you attempt something, and it's usually too busy or too much, or you're kind of waiting, you're chipping away at it. Your experience can help inform the choices that you make, but a lot of the fine tuning just comes with having played it. If you've played it 10 times, it's this version. On the 21st time, a new idea might come to you. On the 50th time, this happy mistake that you didn't mean to do opens up this whole other door. So I love so much being able to kind of explore that and seeing how inspiration, because it's so outside of yourself, these things and how we arrive at a final product.
Yeah, and like you said, you guys were just like playing like the music that I had already, and I think it just makes it just shows the type of musician you are, to kind of just like take what you're hearing and kind of add your spin to it. And I remember specifically with Dan playing guitar, there was like a horns part in a chorus of one of my songs.
Oh, that's right.
And he
Yes.
played that horn part with the guitar, and he just man, just it really, really special. I think the art of musicianship is really special, and there's no right way to do it as long as you're doing it right.
Yeah. You got to do it right.
Yes,
you got to do it right. No right way, but you better
just
find the right way. Yeah. Oh my gosh! Wow. Yes. Oh, I love so much being able to explore this part of our lives and being both creatives. It's cool to talk about these parts of ourselves that are musically related, but so much of what we talked about goes into creating these episodes and this project. So it's cool to get this insight to how you are as musicians. And there's so much of what you were saying that, in our conversations and how we think of like the next episode, a lot of what we were talking about is at play. And the thing that you say can inspire a thought within myself. So yeah, I love being able to explore that. Oh.
Yeah, me too,
man. And I really hope that this was insightful to those of you that are still with us. I'd be interested to hear any artists who might be listening, and if you have a different process, or are interested or know of other musicians and their creative process, let us know. Hit us up. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook.
We're on TikTok.
We have a website, vibablepodcast.com. There you go. Catch us on YouTube.
Yes.
Anywhere you get your podcasts, we love having you.
Until next time.
This has been Vibable. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to subscribe and follow us wherever you get your podcasts.